I think the main idea of coming down here is to talk about students in activity. Some of you will do an activity, I think, tomorrow afternoon, so you'll experience it firsthand. But we've designed this building, as you're probably aware, from a point of view of trying to involve students in their learning, because we feel that by doing it they will be better for it than maybe if we tell them what to do. They learn more by doing. And I came to this in an abrupt way. About 5 years ago, we were looking at some student results at the end of the year in an example, and you must do the same. You look at the student results and you're shaking your head and you wonder where has it all gone wrong. And what we were doing with students was we were teaching them over the course of the year, and then they get to the end of the year, examination, hand in your coursework, and they were failing. And what we thought we needed to do was to get front end activity, exercises and assessment right from the beginning, and get them more active in what's going on and get them some regular feedback. So we devised a system of 6 weeks, so that the brand new students, when they arrived at age 18, they arrived with us, and we gave them 6 weeks where we broke the students into 6 groups, and on week 1 they do activity 1, week 2 activity 2. Okay. On the Monday they pick up the exercise, they work on it during the week, and then on the Friday they are assessed. Okay, they have an assessment. So maybe it's 10 hours in total, an hour or 2 of introduction and a bit of teaching, activity on the Friday, assessment. 1 hour to assess all the students. So a poster, a mini presentation, maybe they need to explain something, very short presentation from the student, which we can assess very quickly. And we give them a mark straight away. So on the Friday, they go home, or they go meet their friends for the weekend, and they've finished the exercise, they've been assessed, and they've got their mark. And we thought that this would inspire them to keep moving through, because at the end of week 1, they've already passed something, hopefully, and they've got some credit. And they can phone up their family and say, yeah, I've been here a week, I've already passed something. And that good feeling about passing things and achieving things we wanted to install in them. So it's quick fire activities in year 1, longer activities in year 2, more involved, and more complex activities again in year 3. But starting to get students embedded in very quickly was very much part of it.
And actually your department was the pilot for
the
whole faculty?
We piloted this, yes, the year before the other departments came in, so we didn't know really what we were going to find. What we found was, because somebody asked me earlier, well, was there more better progression? And it's a difficult one, because there's many things that impact on student progression. And what definitely happened was that the students in May, at the end of the year, more students had passed than we had previous years. But then we have a period of resits in July and August. And on previous years, many students were going into resits and then passing finally by August, by resits. So at the end of the sequence, what we found was the real positive impact was that most students were passing first time and not having to go through a resit exercise. So clearly that's good, but whether the progression overall was remarkably much better, it's difficult to say because there's so many other factors involved there. The students rated it. Okay, they gave it glowing. They said they had a fantastic time. They met people. They worked in a group of 16. They got to know that group very, very well. They learnt about the workshops, the laboratories, the computer rooms. They went into every corner of the university. They met all of the technicians, all of the helpers, so that they knew that after that 6 weeks they could go back to that area, and they knew who they were meeting, and they knew who to talk to, and they knew who to get involved with. And also they met many, many staff. They met virtually most of those people who were delivered to them in the first year. They were met in the first 6 weeks. So that was the intention. So 6 exercises in 6 weeks. It's changed, it kind of evolves as everything does, and it's not quite the same. Our student numbers went up, which meant that the groups were bigger. So what we now do is, rather than continue in 6 weeks, we have brief activity in 2 weeks, and then we spread the activities over the year because we need to make better use of the space than condensing it to 6 weeks. So it has changed slightly. Then we had about, let me just think of 60, about 75, 80 students there. But now we're up to about, went up to about 180 last year. We grew in successive years. And this year we've brought another course in to do the same thing alongside them. So we're working with about 200 students this year. So it's very labour intensive and resource intensive. The first year we did it, we had about 16 staff, technicians included, and teaching assistants. Not all academics. We had a lot of stuff. Let me just have a walk through. In fact, before we this is a first year student project. That's a radio controlled car, and the students 3 years ago made that from scratch. They designed it and built it and learned about all of those basic engineering activities. But it took them all year and hours and hours and hours, the students who built that. So we had to change it. You learn from experience. So now we buy a kit. These are about £200, these kits. And we take a lot of the components out of the kit. We take the chassis out, we take the suspension out, and we give them just a few components. We give them the motor, the wheels, and some of the suspension components. And we say, right, half the pieces are missing, so you design the bits that are missing and make them. And it just makes it more manageable in terms of the time. Of course, what the students do, they go online and find the manual that comes with it, and they can see what the components should have been. So there's always a bit of deviousness in it. But this is competitive. At the end of the year, they will race these and do little tricks with them. And one of the things which we found that was very good, and it's an easy thing to do, and I'm sure you've had the same experience. If it's competitive, competition is good. Students like competition. Our students like competition. And there had been a feeling for some time that, no competition, because if somebody wins, it means somebody's failed, or not won, or lost. But in a way, what we find is that the students like competition, and if it's competitive, they want to win it, and it kind of G's them up, it gets them going. We do a very simple exercise. We put a piece of metal in a vise, and put a piece of metal in a vise, and you saw it with a saw, okay, and it's rough because you've sawed it. So we then measure the surface roughness. How rough is that surface? We have a special machine that measures how rough the surface is. So all the students do this. They've got a bit of a measure the surface roughness. Then they put that bit of metal in here, and they get a file. They file it, and they smooth it out, so the roughness of the saw, and then they measure it again. Okay, is it improved? Yes, it should be improved. Then they come back and they have some polishing materials, and they polish it, get a nice shine on it, and go and measure the surface finish again. Now, it's a very, very simple exercise. This is part of a metrology exercise. But what they do, they kind of, is mine better than yours? It's competitive. But they're learning about surface finish, about using tools, about the mathematics of measuring surface finish. It's a root mean square kind of mathematical relationship. And it takes them maybe half an hour, 40 minutes to do it. And it's very student focused. But they learn a lot in the process. So it's little things like that with the first year seem to work quite well. And it's competitive, because he wants to be better than him. There's a bit of competition. You may be familiar with various projects which not just run nationally across university, but also internationally. And there's one which the Institute of Mechanical Engineers really sponsor, which is Formula Student, and this has become a big international, between universities, a big event. So we build a Formula Student car every year. This is a Formula Student car, and the students here it's a motorcycle engine that we use here, and obviously we buy the tyres, but pretty much otherwise, most of the equipment on here has been designed and built by the students. And it's a difficult one, this, because the institutions or the universities that win Formula Students have a very measured way of doing it. They take a car and they improve it year on year. What we do, we start from zero every year. Blank sheet of paper, and the students design from zero. They design the car, they have the parts manufactured, and they put it together, and in 9 months they've got to have a car. And it doesn't help your record at the event, because a car which has been developed over years, they will have ironed out the problem. So, but it's a fantastic learning experience for the students.